Hi guys, how are you doing today? I hope you are all doing very well. I honestly never thought that I would be making this video. When I received an email a few months ago with this doc attached, I was shocked Pikachu. This is someone I grew up watching as an alternative teenager and truthfully is someone I looked up to. So I was pretty disheartened to hear that she unfortunately has had quite a bit of controversy surrounding her for at this point over a decade. But here we are. If you are a goth or an alternative person and you don't know or recognize It's Black Friday, then I honestly don't even think that you're alt or goth, to be honest. That's obviously a joke. But seriously, if you were alternative in the 2010s and you spent any time on YouTube, you would definitely recognize this person. And I'm here to teach you some things about her that you probably didn't know, things that I certainly didn't know. Disclaimers. We're going to be talking about a lot of different controversies in this video, and of course, per usual, there is evidence to back up pretty much everything. However, we are talking about one of the biggest figures in the online alternative and goth scene. So I must state the disclaimer I always hate to give. I must state these are allegations. Obviously, there will be proof provided, but even so, admittedly, a lot of this stuff isn't totally black and white. There are nuances to some of the controversies that are going to be discussed. So, with that, I urge you all to examine the evidence, do your own research, and formulate your own opinions. I have my own opinions, as I always do, that I will be sharing in this, but you may agree with them. You may not agree with them. You may agree with some of my opinions and others not as much. And that's okay. I don't mind being criticized. I get criticized a lot, quite frankly. This is definitely going to be one of my more controversial videos. I just ask that you all be respectful in conveying your opinions and your criticisms. And I also must state, please do not send hate or harass Freya. Criticism is one thing, but I do not stand for any harassment towards her. With all of that out of the way, let's get started. Freya McLeod, aka It's Black Friday, is a 39-year-old Gothic YouTube star and social media influencer. She has over 691,000 subscribers on YouTube, over 326,000 subscribers on Instagram, over 200,000 followers on Facebook, over 33,000 followers on Twitter, and over 33,000 followers on TikTok. She also live streams on Twitch and has over 5,000 followers on there. She used to also post frequently on her Tumblr page as well, which she has since abandoned. She was born and raised in New Zealand and resides there currently, though she has traveled and relocated many times since the start of her YouTube career, which we will talk more about later on. She currently has 2 children and is also married to Barnaby, aka Mr. Owl, who is very important in this story. Just some general fun facts to know about Freya. She is a Pisces. She took modeling lessons when she was younger. She has a film and television production qualification. She loves to travel. She has or has had her own band at one point. She is obsessed with Jelly Belly beans as well as sweets in general. She also claims she used to have 9 cats, was once in 3 foreign newspapers for no reason, was featured in several TV shows, including a Ghostbusters episode, is not so great at math, and nearly got killed by a whale. Twice. In a video titled The TMI Tag, we learn the backstory of her channel name, It's Black Friday.
Meaning behind your YouTube name? Well, every day of the week has a corresponding god or heavenly body, such as Sunday, Monday, Moonday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And Friday is my name day. And I like black, so it just seemed obvious. I don't particularly like it, it just seemed an obvious choice, really.
The oldest video on Freya's YouTube channel was posted on November 18th, 2013, titled Everyday Gothic Makeup Tutorial. This video currently has 296,000 views to date.
If you like me, have shaved off your eyebrows. It takes a bit of practice learning to draw them on properly. You may screw it up a lot if you haven't done it before.
just to follow up on this point, I want to say to anyone who is new to shaving off their eyebrows and drawing them on, for the love of God, please do not start with liquid eyeliner. Obviously, Freya is skilled enough because she's been doing it for a long time, but I'm telling you right now, as a teenager who used to do this myself, if you are brand new to drawing on eyebrows, just start with a thin brush and some eyeshadow. If you mess up, you can easily fix it with some concealer. You can also layer it on. You can experiment with different eyebrow colors. It's much easier for beginners. If you mess up with liquid eyeliner, then you have to take it all off, and then you gotta go back in and layer more foundation, and then it gets all crusty and gross. Just don't do that. Just don't. Just practice with eyeshadow first, okay? The next video she made was a hair tutorial on how she does her signature bat's nest hair, which by this point she says she had been doing for 6 years and still continues to do to this day, which would be almost 20 years now. We also find out very early on in her content that given her television and production qualification, Freya would help produce music videos for artists and was even offered an opportunity to help create a music video for Lorde.
I have a sad confession to make. First of all, let me point out that I make music videos. That's like my little thing that I do. So a couple of years ago, I received an email asking if I'd be interested in making a music video for up-and-coming artist Lorde.
Sadly, this fell through, but it didn't stop her or kill her spirit at all, and she will go on to continue to help artists create music videos and promote their work. On January 31st, 2014, Freya makes her first mentions of her mother and fiancé in this video, titled "Tea is a goth thing now?"
This one's a little bit posher. That my mother has just sent me out for Christmas, and it's very pretty. And I think these are special occasions. If I'm not making a whole pot, you know, for loose leaves, sort of affair, and these little balls. My fiance just brought me back from his trip to Australia this lonely trendy clips. Some tea to do day.
These two people are very important in this story. We'll talk a little bit more about her fiance, Mr. Owl, soon, but let's talk a little bit about her mother. Freya's mom is named Karen, and she shares the same last name as Freya. Ironically, Karen very much lives up to the Karen image stereotype. And also acts the part too. Her and her husband got divorced when Freya was just 1 year old, and Karen is quite active online, especially on Freya's social media pages. In fact, she is quite proud that she is the mother to none other than It's Black Friday. And she is a character. She is something. I'm going to point out little things along the way when Freya brings her up in some of her later videos, but spoiler alert, she's a bit problematic. And proudly so. In a video titled The Romantic Goth Tag, posted on March 5th, 2014, Freya does a Q&A where she shows us her engagement ring and states that her and her fiancé have been together for 2 years at this point. And then 2 days later, on March 7th, 2014, she actually does the boyfriend tag where we finally get introduced to Mr. Owl and learn a bit about their relationship, how they met, all that stuff.
What was our first date?
Would the first meeting count as the first date?
No. Well, we went out for a date. The planned thing.
What did we do?
You're supposed to remember this.
Oh,
You do remember.
I don't remember yesterday. I remember this morning. Oh, we went to Fidel's.
Oh, that wasn't...
It was pretty close though, right? It was almost the first date.
Yeah, it was actually before, I don't know, to see if I'm not sure. We went to see Dark Shadows at the cinema.
These two very much have chemistry. It's clear they are both very invested in each other, but they don't get married right away. In fact, they won't get married for another few years. More on that later. In the meantime, Freya is putting her production and film qualifications to good use. At one point, she does a Brian Starr-style interview with a Joy Division cover band known as Permanence.
Here we are. We're here with Permanence, who would like to make it very clear that they are not a tribute band. They would like to make it, they're a covers project.
She also hosted a music video on her channel from a band called Crash Scan, a music video that she'll later state she helped work on. She also does a zombie survival apocalypse tag, and I'm only noting this because the person that tagged her is the YouTuber Toxic Tears.
Hey everybody, I've been tagged by Toxic Tears to do her zombie apocalypse survival tag.
And if you recall from my Jake Monroe video, Toxic Tears is also an extremely popular and well-known goth YouTuber and influencer who used to date Jake Monroe. So I just found that to be a cool little crossover. And the two will finally eventually meet in person in 2024, literally 10 years later. Then on May 24th, 2014, we get a video titled, "Where the F Have I Been?", where Freya explains why she went on a 3-week hiatus.
Or read my my blog on my website, you've probably heard me whinge at some point about how I've been trying to find for a long time a full-time job to do in addition to my part-time job, and it just hasn't really been working out very well. It's not really a happening thing. So basically, like, I rang up my caseworker and she put me on a seminar straight away to go to, like, be your own boss seminar. There's weird noises outside. Yeah, anyway, it all happened very fast, and of like the 70 people who attended the seminar, like 14 people got chosen to go on a business course, and I was one of those people, which is pretty cool.
And in another video in the beginning of June, she explains what her part-time job actually consists of.
Well, in my current situation, I have a part-time job, wherein it's kind of an autonomous role, so I go around and do store visits in different places for different brands and things. So basically my part-time job is I build displays for big brands like phone companies and electronic companies, and chocolate, like I do Cadbury's 2 days a week kind of thing. It's quite fun, it's enjoyable. Basically, like, they give me like a t-shirt, like a company t-shirt to wear, and then I just wear like a pair of, stovepipe jeans or something.
She kind of balances multiple jobs at once. At one point later on, she will state that she was balancing 4 jobs at once. And one thing I will say is that I always appreciate someone with a strong work ethic. Even Richard Geese, my number one enemy here on YouTube. Richie, if you're watching this, I hate your guts. We will also find out in more videos to come that Freya also has some experience with the paranormal, and we'll go on to share some of her stories about that. This stuff isn't necessarily relevant to the main events, but just stuff I find kind of interesting. She also does the gross jelly bean challenge with Mr. Owl, and if you guys remember when that was a thing. Side note, I remember doing this challenge, however, I did not remember there being a centipede flavor. Anyways, now we're getting into the good stuff. The controversies. So this first controversy Freya had that definitely slid under the radar at the time was her video on skin lightening. This is a video where she shows us a formula she made that is meant to, of course, lighten your skin tone, as well as provide moisture and exfoliation and all that skincare stuff.
Recommended to me by many people, and something that I've done quite a bit of research about on the internet and looked at different sort of recipes for things, and this is what I've come up.
So skin lightening is a practice that has existed for practically forever. The earliest origins date back to the 16th century, primarily in Europe, Asia, and Africa. In Europe specifically, pale skin was a signifier of wealth and class, as those in a higher class didn't have to work and labor in the sun. In African and Asian countries, it was a means of conforming to Eurocentric beauty standards after colonialism. It has deep roots in colorism, racism, and discrimination. And these standards and practices still exist today, unfortunately. You can get over-the-counter skin lightening products pretty easily these days, whether in store or online, and plenty of tutorials exist, like this one, to make your own formulas at home. I'm gonna be the too woke person and say there are absolutely racist undertones here. The practice of skin lightening has existed for centuries and is deeply rooted in racism. The other aspect to this is that it's also reinforcing racism in goth and alternative subcultures, which has also always been a thing and is still a thing. Goth specifically has always glorified and romanticized pale, ghostly, dead-looking skin, and even in emo and scene subculture, the ideal beauty standard has always been the super pale, skinny, white girl. And look, don't even get me started on racism in emo and scene. That's its own topic to unpack. Even think of things like the Tumblr grunge era, the romanticization of pale skin and bruises with black fishnets and Converse. It exists in every single alternative subculture. Alternative subcultures are no exception to the idealization of Eurocentric beauty standards, and Freya is undoubtedly reinforcing that here, even if she's not outright saying it. There's two aspects to this that really perplex me, right? Because number one, Freya does trad goth makeup specifically, which involves a completely white foundation base. So you're already using white face paint to begin with. But number two, Freya is a natural ginger and is Scottish.
Smudge anything on your eyes, be very gentle because the skin there is quite delicate, especially for ginger like me.
And if you guys haven't noticed, most of us gingers, and Irish and Scottish folks specifically, are as white as they come. You know, before like people with albinism, for instance. Like legitimately, Irish and Scottish people are recognized worldwide as the fairest people in the world. Now, obviously, there are exceptions to this, like with everything. So, you know, don't go crazy in my comments about that. But generally, broadly, it is true that most gingers, specifically Irish and Scottish gingers, in general, are typically as naturally pale as you can get. So my question is, as a fellow natural redhead and Irish person, how pale are you trying to be? Like, we are as fair as it gets, Freya. Like, come on, hello? Don't any of you sit there and tell me that there aren't racist undertones here. There absolutely are. You can't change my mind. This is crazy and is reinforcing centuries of colorism and racism, as well as racism within alternative subcultures. And, spoiler alert, this won't be the only time that Freya has controversies involving racism and specifically things with racist undertones, and that'll be discussed later on in this video. In another video titled Important Stuff, we find out that within the same week as her friend's tragic passing, her employer also cut her hours significantly.
Because they are so nice. My employers, the other day, just pulled all my hours out from underneath me. Yeah, not sure if legal. I was already struggling on doing like part-time hours, like not even about 30 hours a week. And they suddenly reduced them to about six hours a week, effective immediately, without warning, of seemingly no reason.
Now, in this same video, we get the very first mentions of Freya talking about her and Mr. Owl's wedding, and how they plan to live stream the whole thing.
Oh, yeah, my shop also sells, not many people know about this, but quite a few people have already bought them. My shop also sells live stream tickets, which they're like $2.50, and what that gets you is, when the time comes, you will be emailed a link to watch our wedding live, from anywhere in the world, wherever you are, because I don't really want anyone to miss out on it. You guys are important to me, and I want you to be my, like, special guests on what will hopefully be the most special day of my life. It still doesn't have a date yet, because obviously we can't afford it, but, like, the thing is that the ticket thing, whatever, like, that's like a donation that goes towards paying for it, so I guess just every little helps.
And this is its own controversy. This wedding was allegedly meant to be a big, grand, Tim Burton-esque wedding, and it was also crowdfunded. But it didn't quite turn out that way. And this is the origins of the scamming allegations surrounding Freya. She mentions this again in her New Year's video on January 1st of 2015.
One of the things I've been doing, which you may or may not be aware of, we're going to be live streaming the wedding so that people all over the world, wherever they are, can watch it live. But like as a fundraiser to help pay for the thing, selling for a while in my store, like blackfriday.storeenvy.com, like a thing where it's like an invitation to see our wedding live, and it's like $2.50, which I figured was like, you know, half the price of coffee or something, so like pretty cheap. When we get a date, and once I've got the live thing set up, like the $2.50 buys you like the link to watch the live stream. That's sort of to help pay for the wedding, because like still got no idea how we're paying for it. Yeah, so every little helps.
We're going to talk about this a little bit more soon, so I'll put a pin in this for now, but just keep this in the back of your mind. In lighter news, Freya also posted a video at this time where she rapped along to Rap God by Eminem that exceeded over 2.3 million views. So that's pretty cool. But we jump right back into the craziness with an upload on January 17, 2015 titled, I Had a Heart Attack? Initially, it begins pretty positively. She thankfully got another part-time job as well as got her hours raised at her other job. So she is getting some wins in the midst of all the tragedy surrounding her life at this time. And then she explains the thing we all really came here for, the supposed heart attack.
But yeah, like on Thursday morning, I woke up right here in bed with epic chest pain, like around my heart and around my diaphragm. My whole like chest and my upper back was like incredibly sore. Like it was really like agony. like it woke me up. It was intolerably painful, and I was like, it hurt to breathe, and my breathing was kind of short. So we here in New Zealand, we have like a Healthline service. If there's something you're worried about, but you don't want to go see a doctor or whatever, you just want some advice, you can call Healthline, and they hook you up to a nurse to speak to, which is really good. So I called Healthline and I said, oh, I've never felt like this before. Oh, this is a new experience. Like, what do you think it is? And what do you think I should do? And so the nurse I spoke to took it very, very seriously, and she's like, okay, so I've called you an ambulance. Look, please go and lock the doors and just stand by, and they should be around at your place shortly. Okay. So yeah, they turned up. Yeah, don't worry, the conclusion was that I had not had a heart attack and there was nothing life-threateningly wrong with me. They just gave me a crap ton of painkillers and gave me a prescription for a crap ton more.
As you can see, this was a bit of clickbait, but I think we're all grateful that she didn't have a heart attack. You know, clickbait on YouTube has always been a thing, even back in the mid-2010s. In fact, I'd say especially back in the mid-2010s. Then we get a couple of positive announcements on April 8th, 2015, as one of her favorite clothing brands took her on as an ambassador. And with this, she's getting the opportunity to travel outside of New Zealand and attend a couple of festivals as a way to promote the brand, which she also crowdfunded.
As familiar with the Queen of Darkness brand, but I just about hit the ceiling when they emailed me and asked me to be an ambassador for their brand. And as they are one of my favorite clothing brands, I was like bouncing off the walls. So let me get to the point. I get to go to one or two of these big alternative festivals, and the one that I would really, really like to go to very, very much is Wave Gothic Treffen in Germany, which is at the end of May. What also is at the end of May, and I'm sure those of you in the States will probably know, and many of you will probably be there, I hope, is Bats Day at Disneyland. So I had this idea, and like I said, whether or not it works out or not, I don't know. It's kind of up to everybody watching this and my own personal efforts as well. So my plan, praying to the entire pantheon of gods, holy and unholy, is to get to Germany for Wave Gothic Treffen, and then a couple of days later, go to California for Bats Day at Disneyland. Most of you are in the States, more than half of you. There are well over 40,000 of you guys now, which is amazing, and more than half of you are in America. So I can only imagine how many of you guys I could possibly meet at Bats Day at Disneyland. I'm starting a Kickstarter. It is the first time I've ever attempted a Kickstarter or anything like it.
And like she said, she's only at 40k subs at this point, which is still considered a small creator, so this is a pretty huge opportunity. She ends up having to move the Kickstarter from GoFundMe to Indiegogo because it apparently didn't meet their guidelines, but by May 4th, she had successfully raised the money for the trip. This is going to be a 4-month trip in total, but it turns out that she is leaving Mr. Owl behind. But the crowdfunded wedding is still set to take place in September.
Those of you who bought tickets to the wedding live stream video, probably we're going to get married in September. That's been the plan for a while.
So she embarks on the trip, and her America trip seemed to go well, all according to plan. But then some crazy stuff happens when she attempts to go to the UK, because it turns out Freya was denied entry, and apparently she actually went to jail. I'm gonna let Freya tell this story, and don't you dare copyright strike me, Freya. This is fair use.
And when I arrived in London, they turned me away at the UK border. Honestly, I think I was singled out for my appearance. They tried to say that that had nothing to do with it, but I don't entirely believe them. So when I said to the border people that I didn't really know what I was going to be doing while I was there, they treated that as extremely suspicious. They were like, we don't think that you can support yourself while you're here. And I'm like, yes, I can. Of course I can. Like, I wouldn't go to a foreign country for that amount of time if I didn't think I could support myself. And they wouldn't let me provide evidence of anything. They wouldn't let me provide evidence of where I was staying. They wouldn't let me contact anybody. Basically, I got off the plane. They locked me in a room. They interrogated me. They took all my stuff off me. They took my medication off me. They locked me in a room. And eventually they just came and told me that I was being refused entry to the UK. So they just left me locked in this room by myself for hours and hours. And they just were talking to me like I was this complete piece of shit, like I was some scumbag criminal. And I'm not used to that, okay? And anyway, I got put in the back of a van in the middle of the night, escorted to this detention centre through 3 locked electronic gates and taken into this place, locked in there and put in a room. And I'm like, this place is a jail, isn't it? They're like, oh no, it's not a jail, it's a removal centre or something. And I'm like, it's a jail. Like, the room I was in, it was a cell. And they kept trying to tell me that this place was nice. It was not nice. It was awful. And the next morning I was speaking on the phone to the New Zealand ambassador, who was very nice. It was so nice to hear a friendly voice, because everyone I'd spoken to had just been an absolute bastard, had just been some horrible cunt and just spoken to me like I was a real piece of shit, like I'd done something wrong, and I hadn't done anything wrong. But after the night in the detention centre, they escorted me back to the airport and put me on a plane to Hong Kong. And from Hong Kong, they sent me to Auckland, and I wasn't allowed my passport or anything during this time. So they sent me back to Auckland, and I tried saying to the people there, I'm like, I don't live in Auckland, I live in Wellington. And they're like, oh, we don't care. We don't care where you live. You don't get to go to a city of your choosing. We just put you into your country. But fortunately, Mr. Owl was kind enough to sort me out, and he booked me a flight from Auckland to Wellington for that day, so I was able to come home.
So yeah, that was a complete disaster. And honestly, I think I would have actually died if this happened to me. And of course, as you can see, this was devastating for her, especially as someone who loves to travel. And so her trip was cut short. And on the day she got back, her grandfather also died. Jesus Christ, dude. And this won't be the only time that she will claim that she faced discrimination based on her appearance, and shocker, there's controversy surrounding that too. Oh, and speaking of controversy, we immediately transition into another one, because Freya decides to spontaneously travel to Germany and did some drunken shopping while she was there.
I'm back from a weekend in Cologne in Germany. If you're wondering why I'm in Germany, so am I. I don't know, that's a long story, we'll get back to that another day. Anyway, the thing that I seem to do at festivals is get drunk and go shopping. Probably a bad idea. It's also like really, really fun.
So you're likely wondering, Reilly, why is her going to Germany controversial? I mean, she did have her trip cut early after all, right? Well, yeah. But the controversy is the circumstances that led to her traveling and soon completely relocating to Germany. Because Freya decided to leave Mr. Owl and almost immediately jumped into another relationship.
There have been some truly malicious rumours and theories floating around me lately. Hurtful messages flying around, jealous people trying to hurt me, trying to hurt Mr. Owl, trying to make me look bad, gossipy people just wanting something to out. It started from what suddenly appeared on Facebook and naturally led people to make assumptions, and unfortunately, people love to assume the worst rather than give the benefit of the doubt. Since Mr. Owl and I had got together and started dating years ago, we had always known that I wanted to travel and spend time living overseas, and that he was less keen on the idea. We hummed and hawed about possible compromises, but a lot of them weighed on our future financial situation and other variables. Travel is one of the most important things to me. I've always had this unyielding, insatiable wanderlust, and if I can't satisfy, I just get miserable and trapped. And if you keep up with me, you'll know that a couple of months ago, I crowdfunded a trip to Germany and America to meet so many of my lovely YouTube followers in person. I had the time of my life, and I couldn't remember being happier. So after I got refused entry to the UK and posted back to New Zealand, I was devastated. Back in New Zealand, I was truly miserable, and some around me could feel the radiating misery vibes. Mr. Owl told me to just go, because he wanted me to find a way to be happy and hoped we could figure out a way to make that happen, whether it involved being with him in my future or not. I couldn't really afford the plane ticket, but I was like, it, and just booked a one-way ticket to Germany, as one does, where I had had so much fun and such a good experience. I had no plans for what I would do once I got there, but that's just how I roll sometimes. Now, what really stirred is that I entered a new relationship not too long afterwards. Naturally, going almost straight from one relationship to another looks very suspicious, but it wasn't. It didn't help that I'd been friends with this new person for a few months, and so had appeared in a few photos together, tra-la-la. So some people jumped to the conclusion that I must have been secretly seeing this guy for a while and chucked Mr. Owl to be with him. That is definitely not what happened.
Well, that's her choice, right? Yeah, well, remember that crowdfunded live stream, Tim Burton wedding, she talked about? Yeah, where do you think the funds for all of that went? I'll give you a hint. Not to a Tim Burton themed live stream wedding, that's for sure. Here's what my source had to say regarding this. During the initial boom of her channel's popularity, Freya's first grift, which appears to have been at least initially unintentional, was successfully carried out. To make a long story short, she crowdfunded what was supposed to be a big Tim Burton-y goth wedding with her fiancé at the time, Barnaby, Mr. Owl, Drumgoole. The wedding, if crowdfunded successfully, was meant to be live streamed to the contributing patrons. It cannot be stressed enough that this wedding was very well funded. However, the relationship took a turn and Freya broke off the engagement to Barnaby without refunding her fans, instead allocating the money towards exciting European travels that became the setting for her most popular era as a YouTuber. This funded but non-existent wedding went ignored as her fans stayed quiet about it, with the backers having expressed their sympathies towards the breakup. No public record exists of anyone outright asking for a refund, but this is most likely due to Freya deleting such comments, as she tends to do when someone says anything negative about her or her actions. Along the way, she was hanging out with another man named Mattias during her stay in Germany, and married him shortly after, dumping Barnaby in a bid to stay there through a visa marriage. The wedding video on YouTube for that ceremony was completely different from the one that was crowdfunded. And the marriage thing is a little bit of a spoiler, but Yes, Freya allegedly used the wedding funds to travel to Germany and party. And her audience was very invested in her and Mr. Owl's relationship, as it was made part of her channel and public image very early on, which in my opinion was her first mistake. I have some slightly unpopular opinions when it comes to YouTubers and public figures making their relationships part of their online image, their brand, whatever. My opinion is that you actually shouldn't put your relationships online as a public figure. Actually bringing your partner online in your videos, I just think is a bad idea. I've been watching YouTube for the majority of my life, and in these situations when YouTubers make their relationship part of their public image, as soon as it falls through, it becomes a scandal, even if the ending was amicable. Oh, and by the way, Karen is the one who told Freya it would be a great idea to put her new relationship online after having just left Mr. Owl.
Argued about it, I knew what the reaction would be, but he had doubts about me taking the relationship seriously. I mean, whatever, fair enough. And also my mum told me to go ahead and put it online. I really didn't want to, but I agreed to it. I got a lot of hate from people that I love and care about.
Brilliant idea, Karen. I'm sure that had nothing to do with all of the hate that Freya received. But listen to the last thing Freya says at the end of this video.
So yeah, I'm still in Germany. I put myself in debt to come here. But the way I see it is that money is replaceable and time isn't. Not that it's really anyone's business but ours, but I've been forced to make this video so that the hurtful, defaming, rumours and gossip will stop. It's ridiculous, and those people really need to go and find lives of their own. So to those who have given all the small donations to our wedding to view the live stream, I've been trying to figure out how to refund those. I'm not yet sure if I can, but if not, then I shall definitely find a special way to make it up to you all.
She's going to try and see if she can refund the donors for the live stream wedding. She'll try. She put herself in debt, her words, to come to Germany, and she'll try to refund the donors for the wedding. Got it. I did some research into GoFundMe and Indigo's refund policy in 2015 when this took place. Truthfully, it was a bit more difficult than it is today to refund donors. While Indiegogo did allow donors to request refunds, they could only do so before the campaign ended. Now, when it comes to GoFundMe, it's a bit more complicated. It didn't have the same protections that the platform does today. So all refund requests had to go through GoFundMe support directly and get manually approved. But actually, none of that matters, because when I recovered the actual campaign, it wasn't through a Kickstarter platform like GoFundMe or Indiegogo. It was through her Store Envy storefront, where the funds went directly to her. Now, I also researched Store Envy's refund policies in 2015 when it came to donations. You could not generally get a refund just because you wanted to, but you could get one if there was a clear error, violation of terms, or other exceptional circumstance, aka collecting funds on the premise of a live stream wedding and then not delivering on that. And the refund was entirely at the discretion of the nonprofit/store owner, aka Freya, and whether or not you would be refunded would depend on if she wanted to refund you or if she had the funds. So in theory, she absolutely could have refunded the donors, assuming she meant what she said about wanting to make it up to them, and also assuming that she had actually set aside the funds in order to do so. But those funds went directly to her. And she also wasn't working a job in Germany, at least at the time that we know of, and also admitted that she put herself in debt to get there, and also did quite a bit of drunken shopping while she was there. Do you guys kind of see where I'm going with this? As this source pointed out, there isn't a record of anyone receiving or asking for refunds, but they also state that this is likely due to Freya deleting comments, which she tends to do when met with criticism or backlash. Which, by the way, is true, and is in fact still happening today. Much later on in this video, we're going to cover Freya's most recent alleged scamming scandal, and there is a thread within the last 30 days on Reddit of people saying that their comments have been deleted when asking for a refund, as well as their emails and requests not being answered. So while it is technically speculation, it is very much possible that Freya did take these funds intended for this live stream wedding and instead used them to travel to Germany and party and relocate and do drunken shopping. Obviously, we cannot know for sure. But like I said, it won't be the only time that Freya faces allegations of scamming. Moving on, we have another rather small controversy regarding her visit to the Bone Church, where she once again alleges that her and her partner Mattias were not allowed entry for their appearance.
Right now I'm feeling pretty fucking offended because we came to the Czech Republic mainly to go to this place. Just over here is the infamous Bone Church, the Sedlitz Osbury, Kosnice, blah blah. I've been here before 7 years ago, it was fantastic, came back, and they weren't going to let us in. They weren't going to let us in just because of the way we look. I know, whatever happened to don't judge a book by its cover.
And this is a repetitive theme within her content and travels to different hotspots and tourist locations within Germany and Europe. Then we get to my absolute favorite thing in the world. My lifeblood, the air I breathe, my reason for living. Onision snarking. Oh yes, our dear old friend Gregory James Daniel Jackson enters the Black Friday universe, with Freya reacting to one of his videos where he reacts to girls drawing on their eyebrows. Now that's all well and good. But listen to what Freya has to say about Onision.
New place. Carrying on the spirit of reaction videos, one of you suggested to me recently that I should do a reaction to Onision's video, 10 Things I Hate About Goths, which maybe I will do, but I like Onision. I watch a lot of his videos.
You like Onision and watch a lot of his videos. Really? In 2015? I am a proud Onision historian. I was there in 2010 when the Repzion feud started and Greg's public downfall began. I was there every step of the way. I have a series, it only has 2 parts so far. One of them was copyrighted by Onision, by the way, but it is a multi-part series that goes through the entire timeline from beginning to end. I am hatefully, parasocially obsessed with Onision. There is absolutely no excuse whatsoever for anyone to be supporting Onision after the year 2012. By 2012, he had not only groomed 2 minor fans he met online, but he had also moved in and impregnated one of them that he is still with to this day. He cheated on his wife Skye with a minor, Shiloh, who he filmed having a seizure, posted it online and monetized it, and then continued to document and upload his mental and psychological towards her while actively darvoing her at the same time. He then groomed Lucas, a 17-year-old obsessed fan, who he isolated from his family, relocated to his home while he was still a minor, and then impregnated. He then frequently featured him in his content, and, spoiler alert, Freya will continue to respond to Onision's videos, including this next one, that features Lucas, aka the minor he groomed and impregnated. And in this next video that she got over 1.6 million views on responding to Onision, she will once again hype him up.
So I made a reaction video to one of Onision's videos like last week. There were some pretty mixed opinions in the comment section. Some people were like, yeah, I love that guy. But a lot of people were going, oh, I can't believe you like him. He's awful. I've never really heard any of the stories or the stuff, the rumors about him or anything. I've just seen a few of his videos and found that they're quite funny. I just appreciate how much of a giant raging troll he is. He's good at what he does. He's trying to be a troll and he is succeeding.
I've never heard the stories or the rumors about him. So you haven't heard the stories or rumors about him. And yet you somehow know that they exist. Yeah, that's absolute bullshit. Freya, do you think we're fucking stupid? Thank you so much to Cheese Burrito 83, who very accurately pointed out he isn't just a troll, he's actually a bad person / like that IRL, with 1.2 thousand likes. You did know the rumors. You're a liar. I don't believe a word you say. You wanted views, and you suck. Delete this. Moving on, by this point in time, Freya's channel had exceeded over 100,000 subscribers. Then it's January 18th, 2016. It's a new year. And it starts off with a bang. Because guess who's engaged again? That's right, Freya is engaged again. And it is just a lovely romantic story.
Oh yeah, the 11th of August, yeah.
Oh, 5 months. Okay, it's been 5 months. So there have been a few rumours floating around lately that we got engaged. Just to settle the rumours down, I just thought I would make this video quickly to confirm that those rumours are true. Yep, the proof is in the punch. This is my ring.
It looks very beautiful, but the price, you will absolutely not believe how much it cost. It probably cost $2 or $3. I'm serious. It's like a cheap ring from China that I got off eBay, and it's a stunt ring until we can get a proper one eventually. And the way he asked me was extremely romantic, and by that I mean it wasn't romantic in the slightest.
I don't know, we had just a discussion about something at one evening.
We were just really tired, and he was already in bed, and I just climbed into bed and was going to go to sleep, and he just looked at me and says, "Will you be my wife?" I still can't believe it. I still can't believe it. My initial reaction was to scream a little bit and fall over, as you do, and I was like, "Really? Really? Really? Are you sure? Like, really? Did you? No, really?"
Yes, if I ask something, I usually mean it serious.
I did not see it coming. It totally took me by surprise. So I was like, "Oh, yeah, okay, we are the king and queen of romance." I was kind of worried about putting it on the internet. I was quite worried about making a video saying it because I know there are going to be a lot of people going, she's just using him to get to stay in the country or doing it just so I can stay in Germany. Well, that's a load of crap. But I know that kind of thing is probably going to be said by people, but, you know.
You're such an evil businesswoman.
Yeah, I'm such a scheming, conniving, evil demon.
So she said the quiet part out loud, didn't she? The thing is, Freya was allowed to stay in Germany for up to 6 months as a visitor, and as she says in this video, her and Matthias have been together for 6 months. So her visitor stay was almost due to end, and they conveniently got engaged, literally, undeniably, on a whim. He literally proposed to her in bed, randomly. They bought a fast fashion ring, and no, you don't have to have some expensive fancy ring. I was engaged once too, and I certainly did not have a diamond ring. That's not what I'm saying. I just think the combination of all of these factors sort of put it in a different context. Some of these things isolated, whatever. Altogether, now it's questionable. It's eerily convenient timing, okay? I'm just saying. And look, it's obviously none of my business if Freya wants to get married so that she can stay in Germany, allegedly. I really don't care. It's her life, it's her choices at the end of the day, it's not hurting me. But I think the issue people have is the fact that she's allegedly doing all of this on the dime of her subscribers who thought they were funding a wedding with Mr. Owl and instead paid for her to party, drunk shop, and get married to someone else and didn't get refunded the money. And I mean, I'm sure some of you may not take any issue with this at all and say I'm, being dramatic or whatever, and, that's your opinion. We're all entitled to our opinions at the end of the day. I do personally think it's a little bit shitty to ask for money from your followers on the premise of one thing and then not deliver on that thing and not offer refunds when you have the money to do so, assuming she had actually set the funds aside for the wedding, and instead spend all that money on yourself. I don't think it makes her some evil, conniving businesswoman, as she put it, or anything that hyperbolic. I just think it's a shitty, scammy move. That's all I'm saying. I have had many people ask me to start a Patreon, and I hesitate because I do not like the idea of asking people for money, especially with how my work schedule is right now and the fact that I spend so much time on these videos. It really doesn't leave me a lot of room to make content for Patreon to make it worth people giving me money. And personally, if I asked for money on the premise of one thing and did not deliver on that thing, I would feel really guilty. I would try and refund that money. My conscience would not be able to handle that. And maybe that's just me, okay? And as you'll later see, the wedding was nothing like the grand Tim Burton-esque wedding she promised. Literally not even close. It was done on a whim. It was very basic, lackluster ceremony. It's not like she delivered the grand wedding just with a different person. She didn't deliver what she promised at all. Feel free to give your opinions on this in the comments. I'm sure there will be many of them. Freya does these Q&As every now and then on her channel, and she said something in this one that I found really ironic.
Next question. I've been trying to let out my goth style, but I've encountered a bit of a problem. I'm an African-American girl, and I've done a bit of research. Some goths don't like African-Americans to get into that style, but this lifestyle has been around me for so long. Okay, so people who are not okay with that are just outright racist. I will never understand that. A few months ago, I could happily say that I had never seen or experienced any of the racism that happens within the subculture, but Unfortunately, I have since seen some of it online. I had to like block someone from my channel for that. That's just stupid. And anyone who says that to you is just being racist. That's it. I guess just because most of the famous icons within the subculture, you know, like the musical artists that started it all, like Susie Sue or Robert Smith or Peter Murphy or Johnny Slut or whatever, just because all those people are white doesn't mean that's a requirement. Like, that would be ridiculous. Be yourself. Don't, for the love of God, be afraid to express yourself just because you think you have the wrong skin color. There is no such thing as the wrong skin color. Being white or being pale is not a requirement. And anyone who says otherwise is just downright racist and can go away.
Oh yeah, F those people who are being racist towards you. Being white or pale is not a requirement to be goth. But also, here's a tutorial on how to lighten your skin tone so that you can better conform to goth and alternative Eurocentric beauty standards. Love it. Love it. Freya is definitely also in her prime at this point. She's more frequently getting millions of views on her videos, where as before she would get tens to hundreds of thousands and maybe have one video break through to the millions every once in a while. There was one video that almost hit 1 million views, which was her reacting to Onision hating her. Womp womp, Onision is still a whiny grown man baby.
I still love you, Greg. Boob squeeze.
I really like that she appropriated his signature boob squeeze at the end of the video. That was definitely my favorite touch. May 15th, the wedding happens. We already went over that, but it turns out the whole thing was actually televised in Germany, so I guess that's pretty cool. In late June 2016, she traveled to Amsterdam and got to visit the Jelly Belly store. Her favorite food. How exciting. But the last day of her Amsterdam trip was anything but fun or exciting, because as it turns out, Freya was slipped drugs.
It happened so fast, like whatever it was just hit me like a charging rhino. I first realized that something was off when there were people talking behind me and then their voices were echoing. Like one or two words they said was just repeating over and over and over in my head, and I'm like, what's going on? As I kept walking, suddenly reality just fell the f to pieces. Everything just started going like moving upwards. I'm like really, really scared. I couldn't do anything. I just went up to the information guy there and I was like, please sir, please help me, please help me. He was just ignoring me. I probably just looked like some frantic nutter. And then eventually I got his attention. I was like, please help me, I think I'm having a panic attack, can you call some first aid people? So he did, and then some other people who worked there like came and looked after me, and they sat me down and they were like, you've just taken something and you're having a bad trip. Don't worry, it'll be over in a few hours. Get yourself something to eat, there's a supermarket just around the corner, just over there, just go get yourself something to eat and just relax, you'll be fine. I'm like, I don't want to be alone. Okay, so I tried this. I managed to walk about 30 feet. They gave me directions, they're like, go that way and then turn right. That was gonna be impossible. Like, the world was just the wrong shape. I started like totally hallucinating. All the people around me, their faces all changed into the faces of people I knew who were dead.
This sounds absolutely terrifying. And the thing is, I've honestly been trying to figure out what specifically she could have been laced with, because the way she is describing, like, seeing people's faces turn into faces of people she knows who have died, that is not typical of psychedelics such as LSD or mushrooms. That is something entirely different. If any of you are experienced in psychedelics and you maybe know what she could have been laced with, please comment below. I am really curious. And you know who found this absolutely hilarious? Dear old Karen. Karen.
I did tell my mum about it, she laughed. She thought it was quite funny.
Karen, you suck. Freya ends up traveling to Poland. She goes to a festival and also does a catwalk modeling fashion show. And then we get more Onision content, because Onision is just full of spite and literally cannot let anything go ever. He's basically raging that her react videos to him got tons of views, even though he was getting tons of views doing the exact same thing, reacting to people. And the funny thing is that she wasn't even criticizing him initially. The first couple of videos she made, as I pointed out, were literally hyping him up. Apparently this was also a response video to Social Repose, my enemy, as well as Freya.
I thought, wrongly apparently, that this drama between me and Onision was over when he made what was actually an hilarious joke video about me and Social Repose threatening to shoot him.
One of the things that really pissed me off about this was that he used Alex Dorame's picture in this video for literally no reason at all. Didn't need that, just used her face for views, the exact thing that he is complaining about in this video. And in the end of this video, Freya symbolically steps on a banana with her platforms. And this is the official end of the It's Black Friday / Onision saga. Then another controversy happens. At least I deem it personally controversial, and it honestly upsets me a lot. Do you guys remember the trend of every single creator making videos dedicated to Eugenia Cooney, the alternative YouTuber suffering from an ED, trying to help her, aka the Dear Eugenia Cooney? You know, exploiting her condition for views and engagement under the guise of help and awareness? Yeah, well, Freya had to get in on that too.
I understand that making this video might be a little bit controversial. Normally I don't like getting involved in drama, I really don't. In this case, my caring nature compels me to say something, okay? I have to say something. And I can see all this going on with Eugenia Cooney, I can't avoid it. I see it going on, and I feel like it's time that something was said by a YouTuber who isn't just an attention-seeking.
This has always really upset me. To be honest, I haven't talked much about Eugenia on my channel, and I honestly don't plan to. I have kind of controversial opinions on her and the online spectacle and discourse surrounding her. Basically, I really don't agree with anyone entirely. You know, there are aspects to certain arguments that I do agree with, but ultimately, of all the discourse I have observed surrounding her for over a decade at this point, I haven't found a single person that I've been like, oh yeah, I completely agree with you. And this is no different. It's really funny. As my source pointed out, Freya is sitting here trying to pretend as though her approach to this is better and more empathetic and righteous when it is absolutely no different than anyone else at the time doing this to up their numbers. And my source also pointed out to me that Freya was allegedly using the meta tag system at this time on YouTube to farm views and engagement. And in these tags, we can see that she included Eugenia Cooney. This trend was never truly about helping Eugenia. It was just that, a trend. And as we can see, almost 10 years later, it didn't help her at all. It just fueled her ED even more. It would be really nice if these creators had educated themselves on EDs before they went ahead and made these videos, especially Shane Dawson, but you know, that's for another video. So Freya ends up moving cities. And then the next controversy happens. The Lovere and Père Lachaise incident. Listen, I'm not French, I'm Irish, so please don't come for me, okay? This actually went mainstream. This was a huge deal at the time. This is what I was talking about earlier when I said that Freya would have more controversies, allegedly due to her Gothic appearance. I'm going to include some footage of Freya talking about what took place from her perspective, but I obviously don't want to play the whole video for copyright purposes, so I'll also give you a gist of what took place. Basically, Freya and Matthias went to the Lovere, a tourist hotspot in Paris, but were immediately denied entry. According to Freya, they were initially very vague in their reasoning as to why they couldn't go in. And then they allegedly told them that they couldn't come in due to the way they looked, that they would be drawing too much attention to themselves, and then they were both sent away. Freya began crying. She made a Snapchat post that she later shared to her Instagram, and it got so big that the Lovere ended up responding and apologizing for the inconvenience. Freya claims a journalist also contacted both her and the Lovere for comment, to which they allegedly told them that they were denied entry due to Freya being too famous, and that they should have arranged for a private visit. Then the Père Lachaise, which I'll just call the cemetery because it's easier, the cemetery situation happens. Freya and Matthias wanted to visit the Paris catacombs, but they ended up being closed for the month, so they instead decided to go to this famous cemetery in Paris, another tourist hotspot. And I'm gonna let Freya explain a little bit more about this incident, but again, a quick short summary. Freya and Matthias were vlogging and filming, which apparently was allowed and other people were also allegedly doing, and they were basically stalked by security before eventually being detained and forced to delete all of their footage.
And there was the security car driving around. That was okay. Like, Matthias and I separated. Like, he disappeared off to go take some photographs. I was kind of like sort of vaguely following him so we didn't lose each other. And I just had my camera and I was making like a small vlog. I was basically just standing there talking about like the peaceful atmosphere of the place and how beautiful it was and that we would probably come back the next day. I was just making my vlog. And the security car drove past and saw me taking my vlog and they didn't seem to care. It was pretty obvious that I was like filming myself talking. They drove past, they didn't really care. Then I caught up with Matthias and we were just kind of walking down the road. Like literally all we did, we were just walking around like everyone else there. It was a nice day. It was very peaceful. It was very relaxing. We did nothing weird, nothing wrong. Half an hour until the cemetery closed, they were sort of rounding up people and pointing them towards the exit. Like, okay, that's a bit early, but whatever, fair enough. Don't want to have anybody locked in. I was like, oh, okay, sortie. And they're like, wee, and like, okay, we're going. Yeah, we just walked with all the other visitors there towards the exit. And as we were approaching the exit, some other security guards came up and stopped us. And this is the part that gets really and really upsetting. There's like 2 or 3 of these security guards. None of them speak English. They're just talking at us in like really loud, fast, angry French. This time they didn't care about Matthias's camera. They didn't care about his photos. They were only interested in mine. So I showed them what I had recorded. Pretty much my videos, but I'd hardly actually filmed anything because like I said, we're planning to come back the next day. And I had mostly just been filming myself talking.
And there were also apparently threats of police being called. Ultimately, it was fine, the police weren't called, but Freya claimed they were discriminated against once again based on their appearance. Now I'm going to share what my source had to say regarding these incidents. Having successfully used ill-gotten money to remake her life without sacrificing any goodwill, Freya continued to ride her wave of popularity without much drama until the Lovere incident. While arguments can easily be made about whether or not this was maliciously orchestrated for YouTube views, she and Matthias entered the Lovere. While inside, Freya was waving a selfie stick around while talking loudly. Unsurprisingly, Lovere's security were quick to escort them out. Freya then makes a tearfully self-victimizing YouTube video claiming that they were singled out and discriminated against for being goth. She got sympathy and public outcry from enough of her outraged viewers that the Lovere issued an apology and allegedly offered a private tour. For context, the Lovere has an extremely lax dress code prohibiting only swimsuits, bare feet, and bare chests. These security guards are in Paris and have certainly seen and immediately forgotten far more eccentric outfits than what even Freya could come up with. Lovere security only kicks out people when their behavior is disruptive and potentially puts the priceless artwork in harm's way. This includes street performers such as mine, which for all we know, the security guards may have mistaken the two as. Freya was also shortly afterwards kicked out of a cemetery after making a vlog there during the same trip and made a tearful social media post about it. This is when people in the goth subculture at large began to grow more disillusioned with Freya after being humiliated on a global scale by these incidents, but found that her fame on mainstream YouTube would now overshadow how the people she claimed to speak for actually feel about her. Ultimately, while the cemetery did not comment or respond to the media backlash, the Lovere ended up apologizing and offering Freya and Matthias a VIP visit next time they were in Paris, and Freya seemed satisfied with this. Here's the thing. None of us were technically there. We can't know whether Freya and Matthias were being disrespectful or if they were truly being discriminated against based on their appearance. There seem to be conflicting viewpoints, and I hesitate to give an opinion on this because I simply don't have enough evidence or information to even really formulate an opinion. But what I can say is that it was somewhat divided, because Freya will bring up in later videos the rumors surrounding these incidents and how people were supposedly lying about what took place.
Well, I think it's a bit shit for people who've never met me to make stuff up about me, make all these assumptions, and go around and tell everyone that they're true. And if I even try to defend myself, they just go, lies! You don't know me. We've never met. If you're talking about a certain situation, such as like the cemetery thing, like being kicked out of a cemetery in Paris, it's like, you weren't there. Like, the story that I said that happened is what happened, and you're welcome to contact the cemetery and ask them.
So it seems like there was backlash to some degree. To what degree, I'm not sure. I'm not going to give an opinion either way. I'm just going to deliver the information and let you all formulate your own opinions. But what I will say is that my source did show me a very interesting comment thread supposedly from this time when this all took place, and I'll read this for you. This very loosely touches on the Lovere incident, but this also allegedly took place around the same time. It is actually in reference to an entirely different controversy surrounding the Sophie Lancaster Foundation. To give more context, this is what my source had to say regarding this. Like I said at the beginning of the document, there are other controversies around her, and I'd be more than happy to discuss those. The more interesting ones that I know of include the time she was disrespectful to Sophie Lancaster's now dead mother over not being included in a goth influencer calendar for the Sophie charity, the fallout of which is touched on in a screenshot earlier in the document regarding how goths became disillusioned with her. And if you are unaware, Sophie Lancaster was an alternative teenager who was killed after trying to protect her boyfriend who was being attacked by 2 teenagers. The two were targeted for their visibly alternative appearance. So this was a charity made in memory for Sophie to spread awareness. And this is the comment thread that my source was referring to. So refreshing to see I'm not alone in thinking It's Black Friday is fake. Yes, she used to be good, but she sold out. She's such a bad role model for young goths. She doesn't even do goth videos. Is that because she doesn't know enough? She basically does kind of videos of all the mainstream channels are doing, but does them in a costume and adds goth to the title. I'm working with some other goths at the moment, promoting a calendar we made to sell and the profits to go to the Sophie Lancaster Foundation. The foundation reached out to her on Twitter and asked her to just retweet a promo video for the calendar, and she ignored it. It would seem that she now has a passive-aggressive rant tweet instead of ignoring it. Interesting how someone who cried about being denied entry to the Lovera because of how she looks won't support a charity based on the fact that a girl was bloody killed because of how she looked. Selfish. Exactly. She's a fraud, not a goth. Everything she does goes against the grain of the subculture and what it's all about. So glad to see I'm not alone in this. I've been wanting to do a video about her for months, but I couldn't deal with her mindless minions attacking me, and my channel is tiny. Just couldn't deal. Replying to Angela Benedict, not to mention, they didn't even guilt trip her. The tweet seemed quite polite. I'm amazed how an adult seems to have the maturity of a 5-year-old. Unfortunately, people who speak out about her do indeed get cyber lynched. I've seen it happen to a friend. Replying to Angela Benedict, being denied entry to the Lovera while you get things on a silver spoon must be worse than being killed. To me, it reeks of self-interest. Things only seem a bother to her or relevant in her mind once they happen to her. A mature person would get over the issues they have with the person who organized the calendar and see the bigger picture. I think the whole situation seems like a mixture of selfishness and pettiness. Me too. My good friend left YouTube because she simply left her opinion in the comments, and then her mother, Karen, verbally attacked my friend and said awful things. Then the minions came. Replying to Angela Benedict, you said it, girl. I wonder if people will notice. I tweeted her directly about it, calling her out. Ignored as usual. She seems to live in a bubble, and if something pops that bubble, she can't handle it. Mattias is off soon. Watch this space, lol. Now, this isn't a whole lot to go off of, admittedly, and of course there's a bit of snarking here which detracts a little bit from the allegations, but it is a little bit of proof of there being some controversy surrounding this. And at the very least, a piece of evidence supporting the claim that the goth community was beginning to shift their view of Freya at this time. But something I find very interesting about this thread was the comments in response to Angela Benedict. Angela Benedict is a smaller but longtime creator in the online Gothic scene and on YouTube. If you follow Jake Monroe at all, you may be familiar with her that way. That's how I was introduced to her, as she is very vocally critical towards Jake, as am I. I can't see what her replies to this were, as she either deleted them or was potentially removed and hidden by Freya herself. But I am very curious to know what Angela said and what the full context is here. Angela, if you were watching this and you feel comfortable, it would be really cool if you could either comment below or email me privately and give me some insight on what the context was here, and if you have any useful information regarding Freya, or at least regarding this controversy. I would love to know, and I'm sure others would love to know as well. So in early March, Freya did an apartment tour. The apartment itself was very nice, and she planned to convert one of the rooms into a studio for her to make her videos. Then later on, she actually did an interview with Chris Motionless. This was honestly pretty cool. I mean, obviously nowadays it's more common for celebrities to collaborate with influencers, creators, get featured on podcasts, right? But at this time it wasn't quite as common, so this was pretty awesome. And it also speaks to how big Freya had gotten online that she was able to do things like this as a YouTuber. Then on November 30th, 2017, Freya uploaded a video titled, "Why I've Been Sad Lately." This is where we find out the unfortunate news that her relationship with Mattias has ended.
Has recently ended. I know it's very hard to say that and it may be hard to hear that, but it is unfortunately true. It was a mutual decision. It hadn't been going well for a long time. I was sort of tossing up when I should say something, if I should say something, how I should say something, but like I said, I can't put it off any longer. I have to say something. It's been very hard. And one of the saddest parts for me is how many of you comment every week saying that we're couple goals, or that we're so cute together, that, oh, I wish I had what you have. And the fact that literally millions of people watched our wedding, and not just here on YouTube, but it was also on television here in Germany. You know, that's the thing about the internet, is you can only show what you want to show. and you can cut out anything negative. In reality, you've only seen cumulative minutes of us together out of 24 hours a day for the last couple of years. I think things are rarely as perfect and good as they look.
This was also around the time of the adpocalypse on YouTube, which hit every creator pretty hard at this time, including Freya. So overall, pretty sad news. Her and Matthias will remain married for a while, but are essentially separated, though they are still neighbors. And at this point, Freya is considering leaving Germany, but is still staying there for now. And in one of her Q&As following this, we get her first mention of her pet birds.
Go back for that. Emma DM23, can you tell us more about your birds, and are there any other pets you'd like? Lots of love. Well, when you hear my birds in the background of videos that I'm doing in the kitchen or whatever, there are two of them. They're two white budgies, and they're called Jupiter and Juno, and they're very cute. They're very small, actually, for budgies. That's Jupiter and Juno every time you hear all that chirping in the background. Oh yes, and other pets. I would like to get another kitten. I want to get another.
These birds are very important to remember, as well as her cat, Moon Moon, as there will be controversy regarding them later on, so I'm just noting this as the first mention of them. Then it's February 28th, 2018. And guess who's back in the picture? That's right. Barnaby, aka Mr. Owl, and her have been reunited. In a later video on March 5th, we get more insight into what happened with the end of her and Matthias's relationship, and also explains what Mr. Owl was up to during their separation, where we find out that he had gotten into a new relationship.
Anyway, so that's probably not what you want to hear all about, so let me get on to the interesting stuff. What you want to know all about is Mr. Owl, probably. As you may or may not know, like, the entire time I've been away, like, we've remained friends, and sort of, like, communicated, but, like, not very often, just, like, a bit of friendly chit-chat back and forth and stuff. I never wanted to lose him, really. Like, as you probably know, the main reason we had to split up was because I wanted to move to Europe, and he really didn't, and I was not fond of the idea of long-distance relationships, and our dreams were just too different, and I thought it's just never going to work out. And that was the hardest decision I have ever made. But, like, I've stayed, like I said, I've stayed in contact with him, and anyway, during that time he had a girlfriend, and I, met Matthias and tra-la-la-la, so we sort of had these sort of separate lives, but stayed in touch. Anyway, so not long after Matthias and I split up, he and his girlfriend split up. So yeah, about Christmas time, like, we started talking again properly, and like, having proper conversations. And he was like, well, you're single, I'm single, wanna give it another go? And I was like, oh yeah.
And guess what? There's controversy surrounding that too. Shocker. So this girlfriend Mr. Owl had was very public. I'm going to conceal her name and face, as I have not been able to get in touch with her, but to this day, he has dozens of photos of her on his Instagram, and this is what my source had to say regarding this. Behind the scenes, both Freya and her own mother, Karen, an openly racist helicopter mom who loves Trump despite not being from or living in America, proof below, were still involving themselves in Barnaby's life. When Freya left him, Barnaby found a barely legal goth girl as a rebound. Freya and her mom kept in touch with Barnaby while quietly harassing her online. To nobody's surprise, she and Matthias eventually divorced. Freya then went back to New Zealand and, filming it on YouTube, went to Barnaby's doorstep to ask him to get back together. Somehow that worked, which of course meant the girlfriend getting dumped by Barnaby. At this point, Karen had gone on an aggressive tirade of policing Freya's social media to the point where people started gathering evidence of her misbehavior. The only acknowledgement of the initial wedding scam was Freya later claiming in a video that she was trying to figure out how to reimburse the backers for the initial wedding fundraiser. Now, these are some bold allegations, obviously, and I'll be honest, I could not find proof or was provided proof of Freya directly harassing the new girlfriend online. However, I was provided a screenshot of none other than Mommy Dearest, Karen, harassing her online, leaving this lovely comment on one of her posts calling her a troll doll. Literally no shame at all. And while it is speculation, the fact that Freya stated her and Owl remained friends does make me wonder if there was some lingering jealousy. Let me tell you right now, if my mom had been doing this to one of my ex-partners, I would have completely distanced myself and chewed her the hell out. Now, my mother would never do that, thankfully, but still. Freya, you should be embarrassed. Whether you like it or not, your mother is also representing you here. Here's another statement from someone online regarding Freya's mom, Karen, and her alleged harassment of Freya's critics online. Her mom is really toxic. She'll buddy up with one fan and then blackball them, turns them against her daughter, and Freya gets the repercussions of it. I've personally seen it and experienced it for myself. Apparently I'm not the only one she's done this to. She's even backlashed at someone for simply disagreeing, and she picked a fight with them, calling them a narcissist for simply stating their opinion. She is known to do this behind her daughter's back without Freya's knowledge. Her mom needs to back off and let Freya think and speak for herself, ultimately stop turning friends and fans against her, and needs to treat her like an adult, not a child. Her mom is Karen McLeod. I was once friends with her mom. She randomly friended me because I follow Black Friday and am a big-time supporter. She saw my support and probably made me a target. She goes to my profile, and without thinking, I accidentally accept her friend request. I was naive, and if I knew what I do know now, at that time, I probably would have blocked her. It's perfectly okay to post about their daughter's personal life and drama, but once expressed human emotions and filled in people what's going on with me, she got pissy, then she called me an attention whore and a narcissist. She'll literally pick a fight with you for no reason. I got stalked and harassed by her mother, and she played with my emotions, played me like a fool. I got blackmailed and blacklisted for it. Her mom made many lives a living hell, including mine. She used a second Facebook account by the fake name Mary McIntyre. I knew her long enough to see this for myself. Once she gets locked out of her main account for bullying and harassing people, she uses the fake account to do it more. And she'll try to cover her tracks by deleting anything she has posted and make it look like the other person is a bully or being slanderous. She's a toxic woman, and I wish I never came in contact with her. I wish I had never met her. That's probably why she doesn't want to be back in New Zealand, because of her mother trying to control her life and run roughshod over her. If I were you, steer clear of her mom, and if she tries to friend you, use your good judgment and block her. If you do accept her request on Facebook, be cautious around her. She has a history of bullying people online. I'm not bashing Freya in any way by any means. I do wish her well and happiness in life. I'm simply stating what I have seen for a fact. Holy shit, from what you're writing, I think the best thing to do would be to report both of her accounts at Facebook so she'll get blocked or deleted. Doesn't sound like a sane woman at all. She's done this recently on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Patreon. Already reported and blocked her, but Facebook hasn't done anything about her, and I got the "we don't see anything wrong with this profile" generalized message from Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc. I think if enough people report her, the support team for all the sites of social media, they might do something about it. If it's these accounts, what you're referring to, it's her. As of November 29th, she's now slandering me and my friends against me by saying I'm a horrible person. And here are the provided profiles that are Karen's profiles, including the one allegedly made by her to continue to harass others. So yeah, there's that. Karen is kind of deranged and harasses people online. Allegedly. On May 26, 2018, Freya uploaded herself vlogging to go to a Kat Von D beauty party in LA. If you guys don't know, Kat Von D is a very controversial figure. You guys may know her from her television appearance and makeup line, but before that, she was actually very close friends with Jeffree Star. And Jeffree Star is wildly controversial. The two had a falling out after Kat got angry at Jeffree for allegedly not paying / crediting an artist friend of hers who came up with the design for the cosmetic company's logo. So what did Kat do that makes her so controversial? Well, she dated a proud neo-Nazi and almost released a lipstick shade titled Selection, spelt the German way, which was the German term for the Nazi death camp practice of selecting those to be executed. So there's that. She's also anti-vax. Kat is a pretty polarizing figure, so the choice to represent Kat Von D, I think, was interesting. Then on September 1st, 2018, Freya uploaded a video titled "Where is Home?" And in this video, she officially states that she is moving out of Germany, but is unsure where she is going to go, and also mentions wanting to settle down permanently and have children. She then did a short trip to Scotland, and it was while she was there that she found out that she was officially being kicked out of Germany. She states that they did this because they found out that her and Matthias had split up, and reiterates at the end to not worried and that her pets are being well cared for, aka her cat and birds.
Like I said, it was a jolly good thing that I came to New Zealand when I did at the end of November, because 2 days after I arrived here, I got an email from the German immigration office telling me that they had sent me a letter in October, which they didn't, informing me that I had 30 days to leave the country and that they had cancelled my residence permit. They just suddenly cancelled my residence permit. I had never received this letter. I swear, never got any letter. I would have noticed a letter coming from them. So 2 days after arriving here in New Zealand, I get an email from the German immigration office telling me that if I'm not already out of Germany, that they will be sending the police around to deport me. They had cancelled my residence permit with no warning. They didn't tell me, they just suddenly did it. And the reason for that is because they knew that Matthias and I had split up. So basically, I'm in this weird limbo where I've got this flat in Germany full of furniture and my entire life with my 2 cats and my 2 birds, and I'm not allowed to live there anymore. Yeah, so the good thing I came here when I did. I was hoping, like, by now I would probably be flying back there. Apparently, it should be okay for me to go back to Germany for up to 90 days in the capacity of a tourist. So, yeah. And also, like, all the festivals and stuff are on this year, so I don't want to use up the 90 days in one go, or I won't be able to go back for anything else.
And she reiterates this again in a video on April 6, 2019, titled Hate, Love, and Politics, and also mentions that her and Matthias are getting divorced in a few days.
What am I going to do with this piece of hair? My kitties have been well looked after. They have been in a very nice cattery that they've been to before. It is run by a vet, so they are looked after all the time by a vet. It's on a farm, they have heaps of space to move around, and they have a view of other farm animals, so I say that.
So what's going on with the pets? Well, Freya, like she said, had left them in the care of one of her friends and did not go back to retrieve them. It's important to note that Freya herself stated she could go back to Germany for 90 days as a visitor if she wanted, but obviously not as a resident, which means that hypothetically, she could have retrieved her pets, but she didn't. And about a year later, they were still left in her friend's care, and her cat Moon Moon ended up passing away. This is what my source had to say regarding this. To nobody's surprise, she and Matthias eventually divorced. To Freya's surprise, the German government figured out that she basically tried to scam their visa system into staying for free and gave her a limited number of days to leave their country. When choosing what would or wouldn't be kept behind while leaving Germany, Freya chose a selection of her massive hoard of clothing to bring back to New Zealand instead of her own cat, Moon Moon. With the online following that Freya had alongside the internet's general love of cats, keeping Moon Moon would have been a basis for a justified fundraiser, at least from someone notoriously comfortable asking strangers online in personal favors for money, if she prioritized him. Luckily for Moon Moon, she found a loving home with people who cared for the abandoned feline until its dying day. This was confirmed with Freya, to her credit, thanked his rescuers by name when giving a eulogy on Instagram for the cat. Losing a pet is always a horrible thing, but it must not have bothered Freya too much if she chose freebies from fast fashion brands over taking responsibility for the defenseless animal whose life she was personally responsible for. Freya then tried moving to Scotland, but this ultimately backfired as well, and she was forced to abandon more material possessions in an apartment she couldn't afford, which will be relevant later. And then here is the post Freya made regarding Moon Moon's death. I feel like I've lost a piece of my heart, like a pike is driven through my chest. Yesterday morning, my beautiful little Moon Moon died. Despite all the efforts, her heart gave out. She was warm and soft all the way through, a pure little soul, and the weirdest cat I've ever been privileged to know in my life. She had 8 years of sitting on sunny windowsills, belly paths, catnip, and so much love. She traveled across the world from New Zealand to Germany, and had a lot more accompanied career as a guitarist than most cats can boast. It's like a nightmare made real. I'm heartbroken not to have been with her when she left this world. My friends Jen and Holger, who have cared for her for the last year, truly went above and beyond to give her the best care possible, and I will be thankful to them for the rest of my life for what they've done. It's unclear whether or not Freya ended up retrieving her birds. I obviously feel really awful that this happened. I really do. At the same time, I do understand where some of the criticism is coming from regarding her prioritizing moving her clothes and knickknacks and whatnot over retrieving her pets. I'm sure many animal lovers would have a problem with that, and I do understand why. I'm not trying to say that Freya is a horrible person. I'm just saying that, like with the live stream wedding fundraiser, I do think it was a kind of shitty and selfish choice. And I think it's unfortunate that Moon Moon died having been away from and abandoned by her owner for over a year. And it does kind of perplex me, because in Freya's words, she did have the option to go back to Germany to retrieve them, so I truly cannot understand her reasoning for not doing so. Perhaps I'm missing something here, I honestly don't know. I want to give her the benefit of the doubt, but it's just hard for me to understand this choice. But also in the same video, like the title suggests, she does ever so slightly touch on political issues after the mosque shootings that have taken place in her country.
A few of you on here are asking about the mosque shootings, and it's a funny time because New Zealand never has things like that happen. Like, this is the first time. Yeah, it's a weird time because, like, everybody's really on edge. Look, the only thing that's really bothered me about it is everybody trying to blame other things, like saying, oh, it's Donald Trump's fault, or it's Theresa May's fault, or it's the fault of the gun club he was part of, it's the fault of this, the fault of that. It's like, it's the fault of the guy who did it. That's what I think.
So I think now would be a good time to talk about this a little more. aka MAGA Mommy. Are we shocked that Karen is a conservative Trump supporter? I don't think so. I don't think any of us are shocked whatsoever. Let me show you some lovely posts from dear old Karen. Mexico import tariffs, 10% in July, 15% in August, 20% in September, 25% in October. And just like that, Mexico paid for the wall. Oh, and look at this one. This is lovely. I'm probably going to hell for this. Guide dog for a Muslim woman. It's called a barca. Ha ha ha. Hilarious, Karen. And all while representing her goth daughter, too. Now, you might be thinking, well, Reilly, this is obviously wrong, but it's not like Freya said these things herself, so how do you even know that she agrees with this? Well, you're right, I don't know. But this was also around the same time as the rise of the Black Lives Matter movement, and there's some controversy with Freya regarding that too. This is what my source had to say regarding this specific controversy. The controversy around her skin lightening tutorials and the negative impact that's had on non-white goths, the barely archived to my knowledge drama with another online personality named Violet Vixen, after saying silent about fast fashion brands like Killstar and Dollskill that she works with being canceled for racism, leading to a debate over whether Freya refusing to publicly say Black Lives Matter is racist. Freya claimed that she was being harassed and publicly called out by Violet, who responded by posting screenshots to her, now defunct, Instagram story, which I would have shared if I could. It would definitely be worthwhile to investigate the allegations of Freya being just as racist as her mother, which would make talking to Violet Vixen, who figured out that Freya refused to say Black Lives Matter and was accused of bullying for calling her out on that, and getting her story a wise option to consider. There are other relevant parts of this discussion that, for the sake of structured and cohesive document, would probably be best to save for further discussion if you like. Thanks again. I have yet to be able to get in touch with Violet Vixen to get more context on this, but I was provided a screenshot of Freya talking about it while responding to someone on Twitter, as well as responding to Violet herself. That Violet Vixen, right, putting an end to this. Violet Vixen has a hobby of bullying and harassing me online, and it's generally my policy to ignore bullies. According to this logic, I'm white, therefore my opinion doesn't matter anyway. Any racist or bullies will get blocked because that kind of behavior is not welcome here. All of my vids end with the phrase, be nice to each other, which is my policy and message. Be kind to each other. If you can't do that, please go elsewhere. Cheers and bye. And here is a tweet thread that someone replied to Freya talking a little bit more about this. Freya says, can confirm this person's attitude is pretty toxic. Despite my messaging her personally, she is extremely unreasonable and saying horrible for no reason. Had to delete some comments yesterday as too many people were getting upset. Person replies, all she's asking is that you speak up about this issue and learn why it's dangerous to stay silent. She even discussed on her story that she doesn't want to cancel you. She simply wants you to realize why staying silent is wrong and what it says to her and other Black and brown people. She's now, by the look of it, creating fake proof of how I am. Be assured I support human rights issues and well-being of all people, but I cannot abide by hurtful behavior. So I obviously don't know what was being said on the other end of this by Violet. Hopefully I will be able to get in touch with her before I film or upload this video. As we can see, Freya is claiming that she was being harassed, but according to the person responding to her, they claim that Violet was just trying to educate Freya on why it was wrong of her to not speak up on this. And my source is claiming that Freya was refusing to just say Black Lives Matter. Something I've noticed is that Freya has a tendency to claim she's constantly being harassed. And while I'm sure she has definitely faced harassment throughout her career, I get the feeling that Freya looks at criticism as harassment. If we assume that Violet was just trying to educate her and ask her to speak up like the person replying on Twitter said, then it is, in my opinion, questionable, considering the skin lightening stuff, as well as her mom being very vocally pro-Trump. It does kind of raise some alarm bells on where Freya stands on these issues. It is weird, as a self-proclaimed goth creator and public figure, to not be at least somewhat vocal on these topics. And do not let the Jake Monroes of the world and the goth against cancel culture group fool you. Goth, at its roots, at its fundamental core, is absolutely political. Of course, it's about more than just your politics and values. Most goths would agree that it's mainly about the music, as well as the literature, the aesthetic. But to say goth is not political at all is just wrong. Goth is derived from punk, which is extremely political, extremely anti-fascist and anti-establishment. Not to mention, goth and goth clubs have always traditionally been a welcoming and safe space for minorities and marginalized folks, such as queer people, gender non-conforming people, sex workers, etc., even back in the 80s. These elements do make goth inherently political. Again, alongside other elements. I touched on this a bit in my Jake Monroe video, since his current branding is goth is not political / goth is not woke. This video was from 6 months ago, and while I do think I made a good argument, I think now I could probably make a little bit of a better one with my, better research skills and experience as a creator, but I'll save that for a separate video. If you want to know more about that issue, definitely watch my Jake Monroe video. Freya claims to support all human rights, but promotes skin lightening, has a MAGA mommy, and is allegedly, supposedly, refusing to speak up on political issues and simply say Black Lives Matter. It's one of those things where it's just like, if you claim to support human rights and have claimed in the past that you don't stand for racism in the goth subculture, then why can't you just say it? Why can't you just say Black Lives Matter? It's like the people who claim to support human rights but refuse to say fuck ICE. It's 2 words. Why won't you just say it? It feels a little bit suspicious. If I had to speculate, and this is pure speculation on my part, so take it with a grain of salt, I think it may have to do with her mother. I think if Freya said Black Lives Matter publicly on her platform, her mother would probably be upset. And look, as much as I think it would be ideal if more people publicly spoke up on these issues, I understand that a lot of people have obstacles such as employment and conservative families and different factors that may prevent them from being able to safely speak up about these issues in public and online. I'm not trying to be unreasonable and say that every person who doesn't go into all their political opinions online is a bad person. But we are not talking about random private citizens, okay? We are talking about arguably the largest goth creator online and on YouTube. If you're as big as Freya and have her influence and are representing a community of people that at its fundamental core is political, I don't think it's unreasonable that people expect her to speak up on this stuff. Again, she's not a private citizen. She's a huge public figure representing a whole community that's based on anti-establishment, anti-fascist values, that is also comprised of many LGBTQ and other minorities and marginalized communities. Like with pretty much everything else in this deep dive, I will allow you to formulate your own opinions on this. There isn't a whole lot of evidence to go off of, but the evidence we do have does suggest some of these claims to be true, and I'll do my best to get in touch with Violet to get more insight and context on this. Moving on, in a video titled Unfortunate Events, she reiterates that she was kicked out of Germany and claims she can visit as a tourist but cannot retrieve her pets. Again, I simply don't understand this. If she can return as a tourist, then why can't she retrieve her pets? I don't get it at all. And something I noticed at this point in the timeline is that Freya is posting significantly less often than she used to. She used to post a couple times a week, but at this point is posting maybe once or twice a month. That could have to do with the relocating and all of the complications with that. Who knows? Something I did find interesting was a statement she made in a video she posted on May 26, 2019, where she responds to hate comments.
This is on the video I did to celebrate gay marriage becoming legal in Germany. Marriage is between a man and a woman. Don't act like your incorrect corruption of the word is a fact, please. Last I checked, marriage was between 2 people who love each other, and your opinion is wrong. Oh, here's another one. There is no such thing in life as normal. Gay sex is abnormal. You are wrong, and rather judgmental towards those who oppose gay sex. I'm pretty sure that because there are so many gay people that it's actually quite normal to be gay. And I don't care who people want to have sex with, provided that it's all, nice and consensual and mutual and that sort of thing. And really, it's none of your business.
Again, going back to the political stuff, if you can speak up on supporting gay marriage, why can't you speak up on Black Lives Matter? supposedly. And at this point in time, she is posting way less, way less. And naturally with that, her views are going down. But life is moving for her. In a video posted on May 29, 2021, she explains that she has been back in New Zealand since September of 2019, and also opens up about some of her recent mental health struggles. Then on August 21st, 2021, she announces that she is pregnant with her first child.
Basically, because of that, I have looked and have been asked if I might be pregnant since I was 16 years old. And I really don't know why, but lately so many people have just flat out messaged me being like, "You're pregnant, aren't you?" Just like, what? And I've just been getting that question and those comments so much more lately. And anyway, I can actually, for the first time in my life, answer that question in the affirmative. Sorry, I'm feeling a wee bit shy. Yeah, no, actually, maybe this video's been a wee bit misleading so far, but that's happening. So I thought it was about time I told you that those of you who have been, I don't know how you know, I don't know how you figured it out, but those of you who've lately been like, "Are you pregnant?" You're right. You're absolutely right.
And she says something very important at the end of this video.
It's been one of the things that's been on my mind a lot. Is like, you know how in a non-COVID filled world, I like to travel a lot. I like to go to festivals. I like to do travel walks and go on adventures. And I have every intention of continuing to do that. Life doesn't stop when you have children. For an experience, it might be a lot more challenging, but I'm not going to stop living or doing the I really enjoy. It also means that the child gets to have a potentially very exciting life.
Remember this line. Life isn't going to stop for her because she's having a child. It seems innocent enough, but it will put some later events into a very different context. And by November 28th, 2021, she had given birth to the baby, and she tells the story of her first birthing experience where she explains that she found out that she had preeclampsia and had her labor induced early at 37 weeks. She's still traveling at this point. She had to go back to her flat in Scotland for a little while and also did make a trip to a festival in Germany and unfortunately also got COVID. And on September 22nd, 2022, she announces that she is pregnant again. Life is moving fast for Freya. She tells the story of her second birthing experience again and also is back in New Zealand by this point in time. So she now has a daughter and a son, both very close in age. As far as her content, she's getting significantly less views, likely due to inconsistent posting as she's a bit more preoccupied with life and moving and children, etc. But also, it doesn't seem like she really adapted her content and continued doing a lot of the same trends that performed really well in the 2010s but were pretty outdated by 2022. Then, on April 29, 2024, Freya uploads a video titled The Graveyard Scene Documentary Campaign. This is a documentary on the worldwide goth scene that Freya announced she would be creating entirely on her own, and of course, she is starting a fundraiser in order to do so.
I've been saying for years that I'd like to make a proper explorative documentary about goths around the world, and thousands of you have said that you'd love to see it. So you know what? I'm going to do it. For the last 10 years, I've been the world's best-known goth YouTuber, where I've taken the audience to festivals, events, underground clubs, markets, opened a window on this mysterious subculture to a large online audience. I've visited and filmed in many different countries, and I observed that everywhere I went, the goths were different. The scene in every location reflects the culture of that country, the societal constraints, the socio-economic conditions. We're going to see what goth looks like all around the world. Why are you raising such a big amount, I hear you cry? It's actually very little for a large-scale project. This is not a vlog filmed on a Battleby point-and-shoot. This film will have a high production value and be of Netflix-worthy quality, ideally ending up somewhere like Netflix or similar. You only know me from YouTube, but I'm actually a fully qualified film school graduate with qualifications in film and TV production and screenwriting. This project will be cinematic, well-researched, thorough, visually beautiful. How could it not be? It's goths. And it'd be pretty cool to have an original soundtrack too, although that's a stretch goal. It will capture this unique subculture, present it to the world in the best way possible. It'll be informative, entertaining, and illuminating. From all funding sources, we're aiming for 500,000 New Zealand dollars. That's about 300,000 US dollars. This amount reflects the total we would need from all sources to ensure it happens. So, corporate sponsors, feel free to get in touch. We're also applying for the very few available arts grants in New Zealand. So whatever doesn't get raised from Indiegogo will be sought from elsewhere, because this documentary really needs to exist.
She does have qualifications in film production and has some experience, so it would make sense for her to do this. But this is a huge project, and according to her, she's doing it all by herself. And this is significant, because this is Freya's most recent controversy, as well as her most recent alleged scam. And I know I've said allegedly a lot throughout this video, but I really need to emphasize that while there is some compelling evidence here, this being a scam is technically an allegation. We'll talk more about that very soon, but before we talk about that, we have to talk about another controversy that goes hand in hand with this one, and this controversy has to do with her children. Because as part of this documentary, it required Freya to travel to different locations to learn more about the goth scene in these particular countries, and at one point, Freya brought one of her children along, her son. And she apparently tried to leave her baby boy with strangers in different countries so that she could party and film and whatever else. Here's what my source had to say about this, and then we'll examine the evidence. Flash forward to 2024. Freya now had 2 toddlers with Barnaby and missed her adventures in Europe. Thus, her most flagrant scam yet was born. Freya wanted an all-expenses-paid trip to Wave Gothic Treffen, a very big goth/industrial music festival in Leipzig. But of course, a trip to a music festival in Germany, plus plans to get one split hoard of abandoned possessions out of both Germany and Scotland, is expensive. Freya's solution? Crowdfunding a documentary on the worldwide goth community to be filmed at this festival. Freya promised the world to her backers, as well as all kinds of tier rewards. She crowdfunded enough money to pull off her trip and took her son, leaving her daughter to heal from throat surgery with Barnaby in New Zealand. Freya went to the festival and did some shaky filming on her phone to keep the backers fooled. The trip extended well past the festival, and unfortunately for her son, the funding for the documentary dried up while the two were in Europe. Freya resorted to many strange last-minute tactics to make money, such as live streaming herself asking viewers to pay $5 for her to take shots of liquor while her child cried in the other end of the hotel room. She also made a habit of asking anyone on Facebook who will listen to babysit her child for free. This supposedly worked in a few cases without any known incidents. People who follow her and used to zealously defend her are horrified by her disregard for her son's safety, but this has been hand-waved as judgmental and trolling by Freya and her fans. It's not publicly known what Barnaby has to say about the matter, but he stayed behind with their younger daughter who was recovering from throat surgery to treat a breathing condition when Freya left for Europe with their son. It also doesn't help that she keeps publicly posting her children's faces online, with many instances on her Instagram showcasing her son crying and/or uncomfortable. This should come as no surprise after she abandoned her cat, and it wouldn't be surprising if she considered pawning off her son as well. This extended trip lasted for months before their return to New Zealand, with increasingly few updates on the documentary. This is why, recently, many of Freya's now former fans are starting to feel ripped off and started noticing her patterns of scamming. So here are some of the screenshots that were provided to me as evidence of these claims. This one was a DM where Freya explained her daughter's specific throat condition. No worries, it's called 2q37 deletion syndrome. It's extremely rare, and everyone with it is different. Quite a few of them have breathing/swallowing issues, so this should really help. And here are some of the screenshots of Freya allegedly trying to pawn off her son onto strangers during her travels, as well as some comments of people expressing their frustrations with her choices. Urgently need a babysitter this Friday and Saturday in Hildesheim during Mera Luna. eBay isn't working. Does anyone know anyone who can help? Wondering if I should try finding a bored babysitter who wants to tag along on our drive to Germany in exchange for a bit of an adventure. And some of the comments. Where is your son? Palmed off to a random internet stranger, shaking my damn head. Freya replies, oh, for fuck's sake, children are not allowed on site. He had a great weekend with an excellent babysitter. I wouldn't just give him to some random. Someone replies, look at your past post where you've been asking strangers on here to babysit him. And someone argues, bruh, everyone's a stranger, some are qualified to care for children, which is what she was asking. It's not her job to specify every little detail for your slow brain. If you have kids of your own, then I feel sorry for them. If not, I can see why. Then some other comments, is this wise? Please protect your kids and leave them with someone you trust, not some stranger. What the fuck, asking strangers to babysit your child, bro? This, I really hope she runs background checks on any potential sitters. Trust no one, even people in the industry with police clearance are rock spiders, and then they attach an article, explaining this. To write, I worked with child predators and would never ever advertise for a babysitter for my sons online, ever. This is really irresponsible and deeply concerning. Agreed, 100%. And then another person, seriously, instead of dirty deleting your post about asking for strangers to babysit again, why not take the opportunity to analyze what you're doing. It's so inherently dangerous. You could have left your precious son back in New Zealand with his dad and sister instead of putting him at risk with strangers in a foreign country. Imagine how terrifying that must be for him. Never mind the fact that there are some seriously unhinged, sick, and dangerous child predators. My mind is blown. I worked with said child predators, so my concern isn't me hating or being obnoxious, it's genuine concern. Edit. For whatever reason, I forgot to include this screenshot in my script, so I will just read this one for you here very, very, very quickly, but this one is very important as well. These are some comments from some other people saying, "Dude, why aren't you on the first plane home to your daughter who is bleeding out? I can't believe no one is saying anything about this." Someone replies, "She literally lives for her children, all her needs, wants, take a back seat when it comes to them, be better, dude." This person replies, "She's in Scotland still, and I would beg to differ. How any mom would leave their kid to go on a non-emergency trip knowing and they were having surgery doesn't scream parent of the year, nor does asking people to babysit her son in a foreign country so she can go to a concert." And this is the screenshot that allegedly was from the stream where she was getting paid to take liquor shots while her child supposedly was crying in the background. It's Jen O'Clock, live chatting on YouTube for a couple of hours, come by. So obviously, as you can see, this was kind of a big deal and was not well received by her fans online. I'm going to do my best to be as charitable as I can to Freya here. I think it's human as a full-time parent to want to make time for yourself to do things like travel and have fun. I think we can all collectively agree on that. And I don't think Freya is some evil parent who doesn't care at all about her children and who should have her kids taken away from her. I don't think that would be in the best interest of her children at all. However, that said, I think this was an incredibly selfish, irresponsible, dangerous choice to attempt to and potentially actually leave your baby in the hands of some stranger in another country for any reason at all, whether it be to party or to work and film your documentary. First of all, as my source and as others pointed out, if you knew you were going to do this, and Mr. Owl was already at home with your daughter, then why the hell did you not just leave your son in his care as well? Like, I understand it's probably difficult to care for two young children when one of them is recovering from surgery, but I think it would have been a much better choice than deciding to leave your child with a stranger. And the other aspect to this that others correctly pointed out, your daughter is recovering from throat surgery after having a rare condition causing her to struggle with breathing. And you chose to travel and party instead of being there for her? Very questionable choices in my opinion. Listen, I'm not a parent, but I do not understand this at all as an outsider. I know you said your life isn't going to stop because you now have kids, and that would certainly be ideal. At the same time, it does kind of have to stop, or at least pause, when things like this come up. Someone said in one of the replies to the comments calling this out that, well, everyone is a stranger. And I mean, like, yeah, obviously everyone starts off as a stranger, no shit. But I'm sorry, like, that is not a good excuse for this. It's just not. I spent quite a bit of time in the first half of my life in the hands of babysitters, as my mom was a single parent working full-time and going to school. Typically, when it comes to babysitters, you usually meet them like through word of mouth by others, through references, and then you meet them at least a couple of times and, you know, get to know them a little bit, kind of scope them out before you just drop your children in their hands. I mean, that has always been my experience. My mom has never just found a babysitter on a whim, someone who is a complete stranger, and just dropped us in their hands and left, like, ever. That has never happened. And usually, typically, it was people who were like a friend of a friend, someone she met through work, someone in the neighborhood who other people can attest to, who have, you know, babysat their kids, you know, had given positive reviews of. And she always made sure, again, I must reiterate, she always made sure to get to know the person before just leaving us there. We're not talking about someone who's like in close quarters to Freya, you know, someone in her neighborhood. These are strangers that she's meeting on eBay in a completely different country. Come on. Come on, you can't tell me that's not dangerous and irresponsible as hell. You just can't. Thankfully, to our knowledge, nothing happened to her son. But something could have happened. And I really, truly hope that Freya learned her lesson from this and took the feedback and sat with herself and examined how her choices could have led to serious negative consequences for her child. Now, as far as the documentary, it still has not been completed, and many people are growing frustrated with Freya, stating they are having their comments deleted when asked about it, as well as not receiving the promised perks. This was a couple of statements made by Freya herself regarding this. It's a scam. She just wants to party. There are already loads of documentaries like this. Show me literally one, I'd love to see it. She's spending the money on herself. The support and excitement for the documentary project has been tremendous, but there's always that 0.01% of people who will be haters, scoff, and doubt. But they don't realize they're helping too. A message to my haters: your hate only fuels me to make the film even better. Your doubt motivates me. It gives me bloodier-minded determination. While you waste your life being a negative, whining loser, I'm putting every waking moment into productivity. It gives me the power to produce the most cracking documentary out there. Because to quote one of my favorite phrases, success is the biggest f*** you. Hashtag goth, hashtag gothic, hashtag haters, hashtag hate, hashtag losers, hashtag documentary, hashtag YouTuber. And then this was her replying to someone on her story, a comment saying, apparently this documentary will never happen. We're all very shocked, I'm sure, but at least you got some free tickets to WGT. She says, don't know where people like this are getting their info from, but here's some stills for you doubting bitches to show you I mean business. Okay, Freya, so you are absolutely not helping yourself by calling the people who helped finance your supposed documentary bitches and telling them to fuck off. It comes off as defensive and rude when you could just provide the proof that the project is actually happening and in the works. Here's a screenshot of a couple of backers claiming they had not received the promised perks. Freya says, everyone whose perk included keep in touch during production has had an email sent to them with a link. Please look for it and check your spam box just in case. I've had a couple emails bounce back, so please tell us if you've not received one. We don't want anyone missing out. After multiple polls asking people which platform they prefer to use, the vast majority voted for Discord. If you're not familiar with Discord, don't worry, neither am I. It's a fairly straightforward chat room type affair, and if you don't already have an account, sign up is for free. You'll see a channel entitled Production Progress Updates, where, well, updates on production are posted. There's another called Chat Room where you can ask questions, make comments, talk about pretty much anything with other supporters, maybe even make some friends. Barnaby is more or less in charge of it and a Discord whiz, so please direct any technical questions to him. Hope to see you there. And two backers reply, I never got that link email. What should I even look for in spam? This is the only email I've ever gotten. Thanks. And another backer states, same. I have searched in spam. Definitely nothing there. And as of less than a month ago, a Reddit thread was made where people had expressed their frustrations for the lack of response and updates from Freya, as well as claims that she was deleting comments from people questioning her, and even, supposedly, calling some of them cunts. This is a long thread, but I think it's worthwhile as it speaks to the shift that has happened towards Freya online, as well as speaks to some of the controversies we have discussed throughout this video. It's Black Friday Goth documentary was a scam, so it's been almost 2 years now and It's Black Friday's Goth documentary is apparently not happening at all. As someone that donated hard-earned money to her Indiegogo, this just stinks. What stinks even more is the fact that me and other donors had our comments even mentioning the doc on her socials deleted in less than 10 minutes after being posted. She also stopped sharing updates on the Discord, which, mind you, was only reserved to people that gave her money. Since she has plenty of time to closely monitor her comment section and dirty delete, I don't think it would have been crazy to expect at least some transparency for the fans that support you. Someone says, I sincerely doubt she went in intending to scam people, but now she's deleting questions from people wanting an update on where the money they gave her is going. That's not a good look. Someone else says, well, she scammed people for her wedding with Mr. Owl years ago. I think Freya desperately wants to believe that having kids doesn't mean her life has to change, and that she can still travel around and take on big projects, and a film project is a huge project, like she did before, but the reality is she has 3 children, one with complex needs. Her life has changed. You can get away with a bit more when they are small, but pretty soon those kids will be going to school, forming friendships and lives of their own. It wouldn't be fair to disrupt them. Couple that with living on the other side of the world, and it becomes very clear that this documentary was almost definitely more than she could reasonably handle alone. I don't think she set out to scam anyone, but she definitely didn't think it through, and she owes the people who gave her money an explanation. She said she has a lot of footage from what she shot on her travels. Whacking that together and releasing it would be something as well. Someone replies, I agree, she probably didn't mean it, but I feel bad for the people who ultimately paid her for nothing. If memory serves, then people gave her over $10,000. Can't remember the exact currency, but it was certainly thousands. She even originally asked for over $100,000. For the money she did get, she should probably give it back, unless the documentary is still happening. In that case, she just needs to let people know it's going to take a few more years, and that she's sorry she couldn't meet her original deadline. Since she knew she wanted more kids, I don't get why she didn't just have kids and wait until they're older before taking on a project like this, or at least be honest about how much longer it'd take. It's very, very basic foresight, as even other people here with ADHD are attesting to. Hopefully she'll learn from this and plan better in the future. Anyone can have kids and still work on things, but it's going to take a much longer time. For context on that last comment, Freya was recently diagnosed with ADHD. She made a video discussing this. Someone else says, I suspect that money is long gone. She did do some travel and filming, and let's face it, with flights and ticket costs, etc., $10K isn't going to go very far. The 3 kids are all very close in age, so it's going to be a very intense few years while they are small. I only have one and barely have time to do anything else when she was very small. If she came out and said, look, I got ahead of myself, I thought I could juggle it all and I can't, it's going to take longer than I thought, she may find that people are sympathetic. They won't be, though, if she carries on getting defensive and resorting to name-calling whenever someone completely reasonably asks what she's done with their money. When I first heard about the documentary, my first thoughts were yet again she is getting fans to fund her traveling around the world, but at least this time there will be a documentary at the end of it. She's been grifting fans, making mediocre, inoffensive content to appease sponsors, and weaponizing her fan base for years. She copped a lot of flack when Prince Philip died for supporting the British monarchy. She only started doing goth stuff over fringe spooky stuff when too many goths called her out for not having a stance on it. The sad part is when she started making content, it was excellent before she got sponsored and monetized. So yeah, no documentary is no surprise to me, but she could finish it easy enough with things like Zoom interviews and getting people to film footage of their local scene events and send it to her. There is no reason to go dark on this with no explanation. Hell, I reckon people would have accepted her saying she needed to delay it as her young kids were too much right now. She seemed to think she could keep up the jet-set lifestyle with young children, but it doesn't work. Hollywood people can only do that because they have massive amounts of money to throw at it, and even the kids will likely grow up mostly estranged from their parents. Someone replies, weaponizing her fan base for years. I noticed this as well. Anyone not straight sucking up to her will get dogpiled by her fans, and oddly her mother too, who's ironically named Karen. You seem to know more about her than I do, though. This is the second time something like this has happened. The first time she ran a crowdfunding campaign to raise money for her wedding. The plan was to do a big elaborate goth wedding and live stream the event, but instead she canceled the wedding and used the money to move to Germany. At the time, people were pretty understanding because you can't fault someone for canceling a wedding, and she did make content about the move in her time in Germany, but I do think people will be less kind to her this time. Someone else says, I can't stand her. I know people from Germany who told me things. She's bullied smaller goth creators to the point they quit because she would drag them down to her advantage because of her follower count. She stalked one on her ex-husband's account. She used her ex-husband to gain citizenship in Germany. In her videos before the split, you can see her snap at him and vice versa. Her wedding to him was a sham. He found out and turned her into the German authorities, and she abandoned her cats and birds, dipped without them. So her scamming her fans again is no surprise to me. Of course, she'll dirty delete. I have ADHD, responds to other person. I will not take hard-earned money and dirty delete when it's brought up. She needs to address the issue and refund her fans. Ever wonder how she gets cash to go places? There's your answer. She's a con. Is she goth? Yes. But she gives good goths a terrible name. I wish more and more people will wake up to how she is a mean person, absolutely vile. I have been told more than what I typed. People want to beat her ass from what I've been told. The lies she has said about her ex, Mr. Owl, isn't any better. He's a train wreck as well. The both of them shouldn't be having kids, especially with the disabled one, so my hate for her goes deep. Her and Mr. Owl have hurt innocent people in their path of destruction. Edit. I liked her before I found out the truth. We were not friends but would talk on rare occasions. When I found out, I blocked her on all my accounts. Sometimes YouTube will recommend her videos. Sometimes I'll watch them. Most I scroll past. I think my YouTube finally got it. I'm not interested in her bullshit. Someone replies, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I always got a bad vibe from her. Then I found out what happened with her kids too. I'm ADHD, wouldn't do any of this. She makes me angry. She has a mean vibe to her. I'm also a Kiwi, so I feel even more shame. I'm sure you've heard of when she ditched her kids to go gallivanting off somewhere else. Not the first time she's done that either. I have her blocked too. Someone else says, I regret donating money. She never sent me the link to Discord despite of me having paid for that perk. I used to really like her content until she started evading questions on the documentary, neglecting her children, advocating for British royalty, and making slightly racist remarks on working people who can't speak English. I don't know how she hasn't been canceled at this point. I will always have a soft spot for Freya because without her, I probably would have never found my way to the goth subculture. I discovered her videos 10 years ago and learned about the goth music from them. However, her behavior, particularly in the last few years, has gotten too hard to ignore. There's too much to write about here, but I will say that the last straw for me was watching how she neglected her kids during her Europe trip. There is no justification for separating your kids for close to a year, especially when her child went through a major surgery right before the time she left for WGT, or leaving her other child with random babysitters and allegedly keeping him out until 1 a.m. I was also present for the live stream where she kept doing shots while her baby was crying in the background and people in the chat were literally begging her to go tend to him. I was considering donating to her documentary, but when I saw all of this, I wasn't comfortable doing so because I did not want my money supporting this. All of this to say, I do think she hasn't been canceled yet because most of her fans simply don't pay enough attention to realize how much she's done over the years. You can do an iceberg on all of it. 100%, I've been calling her out on not updating us. I also joined the campaign and stupidly gave her money and was called a cunt amongst other things. Not cool when I'm asking where my investment went. I was also genuinely shocked and grossed out that she didn't fly home when her disabled child was having surgery, and it appeared there were complications, not to mention asking random people to babysit her son. Why fly him halfway across the world when he could have happily been with his dad and siblings? And then to ask internet strangers to babysit blew my mind. Her treatment of her kids and those of us who did invest and have received nothing has put me off of her. It absolutely comes across as scamming. All she has to do is actually update us. She can't even be bothered to do that, yet she can post stupid Killstar hauls and other mindless stuff. Where are the shirts we were supposed to get? If she's so busy, then actually communicate this. It doesn't bode well to see her shilling shit and getting really repulsive with her fans. Seems like a shit person, and I'm bummed I gave her my hard-earned money. So as you can see, there is undeniably a shift happening. Now, as of very recently, like I'm talking 3 days before I sat down to film this, Freya did upload an unlisted teaser of the documentary to her channel. It's odd to me why she chose to unlist it instead of making it public, but it's about 5 minutes long. I'm not going to play any of it because I worry that she would copyright me. I already think she's going to try and copyright me, to be honest, but it contains a few snippets of interviews and things like that, and she's still asking for money in the description box for the project. So we know at the very least that some work was done in the last couple of years. We don't know when. Maybe it was at the start of the project when it was announced. Maybe it was later on. I'm guessing she uploaded this to silence some of the noise. But here's my issue. Why didn't you just upload this in the first place instead of deleting comments and getting defensive and calling people names? You could have done this all along. And my source pointed out that this feels like it could be kind of a distraction. Obviously, like some Redditors pointed out, this is a pretty huge project for someone to take on. And if it's a situation where she got in over her head, then I think that's understandable. I just don't understand why she wouldn't just say that and then show this teaser. The defensiveness, the deleting comments, the name calling, that feels like you're trying to deflect and hide. It feels like you are giving validity to some of the claims and concerns people have. It also feels like this was kind of just quickly thrown together to make people shut up about it. And I'm sure people will argue with me on that and say that I'm like reaching, and you know, that's fine, but I really think we should look at the way she's responded to criticism and her pattern of allegedly scamming people in similar ways in the past. And in this teaser, there aren't any updates about when people can expect this documentary to come out. It's just clips of interviews and clips filming in the Killstar store. You know, the overpriced goth fast fashion brand? Yeah, the Killstar store. At the end of the day, we can't know for sure if this project is going to have actual follow through. We just have the evidence we have, and we just have to wait and see. Only time will tell. But this is a pattern of behavior, and it's undeniable that it's beginning to catch up with her. And I think the criticism and backlash she's faced for this is 100% valid, even if it's a situation where she simply got in over her head and needed more time and isn't actually trying to scam anyone. As of recently, Freya is still mostly doing reviews. She has included her children in some of her videos and thumbnails, which I am personally not a fan of. With the rise of AI CSAM, I agree with the many people who advocate for not posting your children online at all. As of very recently, she has done a collaboration with Killstar. And that is where we currently stand in the timeline of It's Black Friday. Like I said in the beginning, I have a feeling this is going to be one of my more controversial videos. Obviously, this is not a situation where we are covering like a dangerous predator like we normally do. There's a lot of nuance here. There's absolutely a lot of nuance here, and I'm sure there will be a lot of mixed opinions. I don't mind being criticized. I really don't. I get criticized constantly, to be honest. I just ask that you do so respectfully, and I also ask that you be respectful towards Freya. Criticism is one thing, but please do not send any hate her way. I do not stand for that. If anyone has any more information on this or any more evidence, please email me at the email listed above. I do also have my email listed in my bio on my page, so if any of you ever need to contact me, my email is in my bio. If you have evidence, if you have anything else to add to this, please, my God, send it to me. I am so curious. And thank you all so much for listening. I hope you all have a lovely day or night, depending on where you are. Please take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.